God, we just thank you for this day, oh God. We thank you for your presence in this place, oh God. And Father God, we just ask right now, oh God, the Holy Spirit, you be the teacher of this hour, oh God. Give us ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts to receive all that you have for us this day, oh God. And Father God, we just thank you, oh God, that the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart will be acceptable in your sight, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We are the Mitchell family. Alrighty, so we're going to back up just a little bit to recap what Mr. and Mrs. Parisi talked about. The title of this chapter is The Importance of a Father's Love. And it starts off, it said, the word is not to turn the minds or attention of fathers to children, but to turn their hearts. So basically, when a father sets out to do something, it's not so much of, oh, I want to do this with my child, or I want to do that, what his mind would say, but more so what is in his heart. Mm-hmm. On page 142, I'm sorry. And then basically, as a father, it was the author was trying to get them to see that we call men not to set their teeth to try harder, but to set their knees to pray. God will hear, but only God-given repentance can accomplish the change that is required. So when the importance of a father's love here is that his heart will be turned most of all to God, but when in terms to his child, that the heart is involved with the child. On page 144, it spoke about men being in prison and how they had Father's Day and the guy had created some cards and he was trying to sell them. But many of the prisoners did not even want to buy the cards, although it was only $2. But because they didn't have a father in their lives, they didn't value the importance, they didn't see it important as Father's Day. One thing at the bottom it talked about was, it said more recent surveys reveal that fatherless children are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. They're likely to do all these evil vices in here, run away, X, Y, and Z. Then it leads to what we are today. Fathers give life. So then it said, wherever a father hugs his son, takes him fishing, buys a wound, hears a complaint, gives a compliment, or administers discipline, there the word of God is made flesh. 1 John 4:2. And on page 146, this is where we begin. If a father fails to be with his child, that child's spirit withers. So at this moment, I would like each of you to stand up. Everybody stand up. It's a group participation, yet it's individual. Around the room, that one has fallen. Eddie, can you get that card over there for me? So on this side of the room over here, if you lived in the house with both of your parents, your mother and your father, I want you to come over here. If you lived in the house with your stepfather, I want you to come stand over here. If you lived in the house and there was no father, I want you to come live over here. Stand over here.
I was in college before I said.
Growing up, so you just go stand over here with no father. Because you were grown by the time you met him, is what you said, right? Okay, the foundation was there. Now, for you guys, I knew it would be such a large group with the both parents, but there was a group within this group. So if you lived in the house with both parents, but your father was not involved in your life, meaning he was a provider, he did go to work, X, Y, and Z, but when the book talked about giving hugs and complimenting you, and you could run to him and tell him, hey dad, X, Y, and Z, then I want you to stand, if he was not that person, like no involvement, I want you to stand here. But if he was involved, come on over to this side over here. If he hugged you and he kissed you and you ran and jumped in his lap and that touchy-feely, you guys stand over there. Now, I want you to turn around and look. This is your card here. Your section is called not involved. Your section is called both parents. Your section is called stepfather. And your section is called no father. And the title of our lesson today is The Fathers Give Life. Now, I don't want you to think about where you are in your life right now. I want you to think about your childhood upbringing before you were grown, okay? Are we clear?
Yes.
All right, everybody have a seat back in your original seat.
That's something really.
Yes.
Wow.
When you see
We're
it-
gonna close out with that.
Wow.
But the title say, fathers give life. So it say again, if a father fails to be with his child, that child's spirit withers. Jesus told us that unless we abide in him, we are as a branch apart that withers. And I'm on page 146 in the first paragraph.
So, first question for the group is the first sentence on page 146. It says that if the father fails to be with his child, the child's spirit withers. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it speaks of it's not death to the child, but the spirit that in a person, that confidence of a person, it could not come into full bloom. It'd be like dried up. It wouldn't manifest what it should manifest in its fullness. There's always like there's some hindrance there, but I always see it like withered. I mean, there may still be life, but like a plant, it's just not in the full bloom for everybody to see its full glory.
Anyone else? If a father fails to be with his child, and this is the first sentence on the first paragraph on page 146. If a father fails to be with his child, that child's spirit withers. What does that mean?
Yeah. That's the thing about, like with a condition of withered hand or withered arm, it's still there, it's just not fully functional, it's not fully developed. It is less than, in some cases, much less than what it should be. So that withered means diminished.
That's what I was thinking. I thought of like going to the gym. And if you exercise one leg or one arm more than you do the other one, you know, you look buffed on this side, but this one look kind of not lifeless, but it's still there and functioning, but it's not as strong.
I like that, and I thought about a flower
That's right.
and how a flower withers. It's not that the flower is dead; it still has life, but it's just not fully mature in that area. So it's lacking something, be it sunlight or water or plant food, but something is missing. And as a father, the title again speaks that fathers give life. You guys read the chapter already?
Yeah.
All right, well, we can read it really quick. It said, fathers fail, substitutes can be provided. Well, I'm just going to read it real fast. Or you want me to start here? Okay, in the second paragraph, it says, most failures in life can be traced sooner or later to the breaking of the one command. Honor thy father and thy mother, that it may go... I'm sorry, Sister Laura, is that your scripture? Deuteronomy 5:16. I passed out scriptures to you guys. So when we get to that point, then you'll read that scripture.
Honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God has commanded you, that your days may be long and that it may be well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you.
So basically when the author wrote this part, if you back up to the sentence I just read, it said that most failures in life can be traced back to that one command, honoring your mother and our father. And many times in life, based on the different groups, the mother most of the time is honored automatically in the home, for the most part. This is just in general. And the father is not. Be it the father is not there, or the father is at work, the father's not around, the father's not involved. So children tend to not want to honor their father, not necessarily in their words. You may not say it, but necessarily in your heart. Are we clear? All right, and then to conclude on this page, it say we all have one common denominator. That's the second sentence. We all have one common denominator. Our life with or without our fathers and mothers. And that is when you all look around now, we're brought back together and we're in one group now versus how we had you all separated out. We have one common denominator now. And we'll tell the common denominator at the end. Alrighty, can someone read Matthew 7:1?
Matthew 7:1 say, judge not that you be not judged.
Oh, okay, so, that was over here still, but anyway. Okay, so if a child, and it talks about if a child judges his father for lying, the law of Deuteronomy 5:16, which we just read, and my mother-in-law read in Matthew 7:1, and even Galatians, did you write down Galatians 6 as well? Can someone read Galatians 6, 7, and 8? Galatians 6, 7, and 8.
Galatians 6, 7, and 8. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, that he will also reap. Verse 8. For he who soweth in the flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who soweth in the spirit of the spirit will reap everlasting life.
Okay, so the question is, because the author makes the point, if a child, at the top of page 147, if a child judges his father for lying by that law of Deuteronomy, Galatians 6, 7, Matthew 7, 1, he dooms himself to become a liar. So the question is, do we become what we judge harshly? Do we actually end up becoming that which we view as, I guess you could say, a negative behavior? We judge someone as being or displaying a certain character. Do you yourself become that character because you judge me so harshly? Is that true? Is this author on the right track with this statement? I'm just throwing, I'm not saying there's no right or wrong answer.
Oh, that's a wow.
So just your thoughts.
I'm gonna go back to Wednesday night, that definition of judge, you know, looking at someone and say whether their actions are right or wrong. That's not judgment. It's a form of judgment, but I think the form of judgment, people always talk about that, passing final judgment on a person, you know, that condemnation. Like my dad did something, you know, wrong, people say, well, I would never be like him, you know, I hate him. So you already passed, that's a final judgment. My final judgment is I hate my father. Not that I dislike what he did. Now I'm passing judgment on him as a person. And that's what we can't do. You're supposed to, the Bible said, judge yourself, so I won't have to be supposed to look at a person and say, okay, that's how not to do. As a matter of fact, the Bible said we could have pity on that person. In other words, try to understand that person. Not do what they do, but when we pass judgment, we trying to tell God, okay, I would never do that. You don't say that. You see what they do and then you judge yourself accordingly so that you won't repeat that action. You do the same thing outwardly when you look at other people you do for yourself. So I don't think you become that. Now, if you try to pass condemnation, I think you're right, you may become that. Because I see people in the secular life do that. Father may be a violent person, you know, putting their hands on his mom or something. And then they say, I would not ever do that. And then, yeah, they wind up doing that. Because they pass judgment, they hate their father. Yeah. Well, they forgot to, and I just like when I was telling my father, it's funny how you learn from everybody. He probably should have sat down and talked to his father and figure out why he did that. So that as a son, you don't repeat that same action. You know, learning how to control yourself. So I learned, even when somebody got something against you, like in the church, at job, it's something how when you talk with them, there's a conversation, there's a learning that goes on. When you don't talk to them, you're apt to do the same thing. Because you can learn from everyone. You learn from their good character, you learn from their bad character. Just like the word of God, it's all profitable, the good and the bad in it. So I think you become that when you try to condemn someone and you say, well, you start hating the person, not the sin. You know, that's kind of treacherous ground there. But I think in that outward judgment, just looking at judging the person's actions, you know, their sin, no, you better do that so you won't make the same mistake. And as a father, they should talk to their children and say, you know, son, this is what I did. You know, I made a mistake in this area. You know, so you won't be judged in the wrong way. This is what you probably need to do to keep from being like me. Don't have that same behavior. And matter of fact, son, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to judge myself so I won't keep repeating the same thing.
see, when we come to our children and you interact with them in that area, as a father or even a mother, what you're doing is taking up that seed, that seed that's not good. And you're letting them know that this is wrong, but then you're planting a good seed, telling them what the word of God says, what to do and what not to do.
Actually, when you look at how it relates to the scripture, Deuteronomy, when we pass condemnation, which is probably a better word, on our father, it goes against the word of God.
Yes, yes, it does.
So there are consequences for that.
Yes.
And one of the consequences is what God said, you didn't honor your father and your mother, so now the consequences must befall you. That's why you pronounce that sentence upon yourself. So the consequence to be, you become that which you judge against, because in our flesh we can't sustain ourselves. You know, if you judge somebody, you're actually saying I'm better than you.
That's it.
I would not do what you do. We don't have the power to do that. You know, other factors are a whole lot of segments there. But we're violating the word of God, and we're setting ourselves up as if we had the ability to maintain the word of God in our flesh. We can't do that.
I also see that when it said honor thy mother, I think we had that.
Yeah, we're going back right there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The word of God said, honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days may be long upon the land. In other words, what he's speaking of here is active death. You know, if I disrespect my mom and my father, even as coming up, I don't know what time I'm going to check out, because God said, this is the command. Even when you get to the Ephesians, he said, provoke not. That's what he tells the parent. But then he tells us as children, honor. Because honor has life in it. Honor has life.
That's right. Amen.
Can someone read Matthew 15:4?
Okay, that was me.
And then after that one, Mark 17.
Mark 15:4. I had that one. It said, for instance,
Matthew.
I'm sorry, Matthew 15:4. It says, for instance, everybody there? It's, for instance, 15:4, Matthew. For instance, God says, honor your father, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death.
Great.
I didn't know that was
So-
one scripture.
Anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. So often we think honoring our father and mother, well, I'm just gonna not be disrespectful when I'm talking to that person, or, you know, walk away from them. But it's deeper than that. The heart issue.
I think for a long time, we based it on what they did or did not do.
Right.
You know, parents, I was raised in a single parent home, and my mother never said anything bad about my father. I don't ever remember her saying anything bad about him. He was in and out of my life, and I adored him for the time he was in my life. And I thank God for that, because it gave me some balance, because above everything else, I always knew he loved me. And I know that sounds crazy to somebody that doesn't, but he had problems. When you look, you gotta look beyond what you, when I grew up, I looked beyond what I saw with my natural eye. When you're a child, you see it one way. But then when you begin to look at somebody, look at their life, then you get a better understanding of where they're coming from. You know, but what I'm saying is, I think we try to justify that, like, oh, he wasn't there, he never took care of me, I did without this, I did without that. And so you think I rightfully can be disrespectful to him. I can rightfully talk about him, because based on the fact that he did not do this, so he was never there for me. Or my mom said this about him. We have such a great responsibility not to put our husbands down, which is your children's father, or whatever, in front of them. You can never do that, because children, they hear you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's where we, for so long, and even to this day.
I like how it says to honor your mother and father. It's no conditions with that.
Yeah.
It's direct.
Just
It's
do
a
it.
command what you should do.
Command.
Just do it.
It's not saying if they this way, if they give you a lot, if they home, if they're not home. It says to honor them, and that's our responsibility as a child. And that's without conditions. And,
Right.
And when we, I'm sorry.
and we just gotta realize sometimes how our parents, what were their parents like? Or what did they go through society when they were growing up? It's a lot of conditions why somebody is the way they are. Because, you don't know what their lot in life has been. And you gotta, try to learn that. Then sometimes you realize this is why they were that way.
Grace.
Their father, their mother was like this. And that's the way men were back then. That's the way women were back then. It's a lot of conditions.
Okay, so can we go back to this group over here that he brought it up? Those that had both parents in the home. And then there was a group broken off even more that did not have the father involved, which ties into what you're saying. Many generations ago, the father went to work and they saw that as love. If I go out and I work and I provide, you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table, that's my way of showing you love.
Yes, amen.
That's my way of showing you love. But if you think about the group that stood on this side, can you stand up, those of you who stood on this side that had both parents, that did not break away from the other group? If you were standing right here,
That'll be used.
both parents.
Lord, Eddie.
So that'd be Eddie,
Lord.
Tamika, Brittany.
You had both with them.
The only exception in this group, no offense, is Elder Green and Sister Stanley. Most of them are of a different generation with younger fathers who begin to learn that even though I provide, put food on the table, I need to do a little bit more. I need to give a hug. I need to give a kiss. I need to be more relational. I need to show, how was your day today? So that's what I wanted to see with just that little part right there and honoring them. Thank you, guys. Did someone read Mark 17 already?
No,
I don't think so.
I have 7 and 10. But Moses said, honor your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death.
Oh, Lord.
Again. So this verse speaks of physical death, but the greater curse of sin is death to our abundant life and happiness. So when we're not honoring them, then it will physically eat away at your inner man too, in the physical sense. Of course, we know sin in the end it leads to death. But think about your physical body and how bitterness and hatred can eat away our flesh into the natural. It went from the spiritual man to the natural. And then we don't know why we're feeling this way. Oh, my heart hurt. Why I got all these heartaches? Well, maybe I need to forgive my dad, or maybe I need to forgive my mom. Just something to think about. But remember, a father gives life. The next point is, what roots are established by a father? So here are some questions that the author posed. And I want you to think where you were standing, not where you are right now, but what group you were standing in when I asked these questions. You don't have to answer them out loud. It's just something to ponder. Okay? The following question we use to locate the roots of evil in a human heart. Did your father give you affection? Could you run and jump in his lap? Did he ever rough and tumble with you? Since children are loyal, adults frequently remember the best and repress the worst. Therefore, questions must often be rephrased more specifically, such as, would he ever take the initiative and, seeing your need, come over and take you on his lap? So instead of me running to jump in his lap, he come get me and say, come on, sit in my lap. Or did you have to come to him first? If you had a problem, would you feel free to tell him everything? Would he understand or jump to conclusions? How did he discipline? Was he fair? What kind of job did he have? Was he gone a lot? If you did some work around the house, would he notice? Not notice, affirm, or criticize? Did you feel that you pleased him? Did he approve of you? Would you say he was a kind man or cruel? Which would be closer to the truth? Was he a drunkard? Did he have any other vices? What about his faith? Take a moment to think on that. Did he believe in God? Did he take you to church with him? How did he get along with your mother? Did he show her affection? Did he respect her? Do you know whether he was a faithful husband? All of those questions I got excited about. But I'm gonna share my testimony. You guys don't have to share yours if you want to. But when I pondered on those questions and it talked about, was my father involved in my life? Did I run and jump on his lap or did he call me over? My father was a little bit of both. He wasn't all touchy-feely, I come to get it. But at times it was, well, come on over here and give me a hug. So it was the best of both. He had a good job. So he was a natural provider to my mom, even though they weren't together, but he still made sure he did what he was supposed to do. He was not gone a lot, so I got to see him on the weekend. There was a time period in my life where I actually lived with him for a couple of years. The big part that say, if you did some work around the house, would he notice, not notice, affirm, or criticize? I had wanted some shoes, some Jordans that came out. Okay? And you know, it's that time of year where you buy your kids shoes to go back to school. And when I was growing up, you didn't get another big name-bearing pair till like Christmas time. Then after Christmas, it was income tax time. So you got like 3 pair of shoes for school, but you got a pair to start. By the time those about gone and dusted up, it was Christmas time, so you got another pair. And then by the time you know, tax time come around, then you can get another pair. So that was the flow. Now in between, you can get some sandals and other stuff, but the more of the story is, okay, so you got some things. Well, I wanted these shoes. And it wasn't that time of year. So what I did was, I saw the grass needed cutting. So I went out, I cranked that fast boy up, and I go cut the grass. Now the lines might not have been straight, but all the grass got cut, okay? So when he came home from work, and he saw that the grass was cut, the next day when I came home from school, I had some shoes on my bed. So the moral of the story is, he did see what I had to, even though he didn't, oh, you did a good job, or oh, the line's not straight, you know, it wasn't like that. But he did notice the fact that the grass was cut, my baby wants some shoes, you know what, I'm gonna go buy them shoes. which leads to, do you feel that you pleased him? I think I did a pretty good job. Well, hey, it worked out. You know, let me see what I can do.
Motive.
But he noticed.
That's right. Amen.
And as a reward, he got me the shoes. And I don't think it was so much of because I did the work to cut the grass to get the shoe. It was just the fact that I done something out of the ordinary that I would not normally do. And as a result, I got the reward. And then lastly, that question of did he approve of you? That was something that even when I got grown, even now, I'm subject to. Hey daddy, what you think? X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. I still look for that approval. I know it's supposed to be my honey.
Amen.
But I still call my dad and say, this is what's going on in my life. What do you think about this? And it's amazing because if it's good, he'd be like, you know, I think that's a good idea. And if it's bad, he's like, I don't know about that. You know, I think you should do X, Y, and Z. But I still aim to please him for as his approval, which in turn affect us as children. It affects you as an adult. And it's not until we become in Christ, and I won't get too far ahead, that we truly recognize the importance of that Father-given life. And then the last part of my testimony in that, and we're gonna move on, is when I first got saved, and even now, it was hard for me to trust God. And I still do I can trust God for somebody else all day long. Good, fine, day. But when it comes to me, I'm the one who's trying to go out and do it my way and figure out the solution to this problem and X, Y, and Z. And then God was like, but I'm your father. But I had such a good father growing up to, I don't sit and wait to the father try to say, well, I'm going to provide for you. Just hold on a minute. It was boom, 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 Tina, boom, boom, boom. And then he has to remind me, like, just like you had a good father right there, I'm an even better father. Amen.
continuing on page 148, on the second paragraph, it says, far more importantly, we ask, and we may have already answered this question, but if anybody has any further insight, the author poses the question, how did you react? For we are not looking to blame parents. Parents are indeed accountable for how they treated us, but we alone are accountable for our reactions, and for allowing those reactions to infect the way we relate to self, to God, and to others, the present day. How is a child to react to their parents? And I know that's a broad question considering every single thing that your parent can do. And I want to say Elder Barnes pretty much answered that question, but I think it would bear reiteration. How is a child to react to their parent? Yes, ma'am.
Respectfully, and in love also. I remember one thing that the Lord taught me, that I am not responsible for my father's actions, but I'm responsible for my own. That was one thing he taught me as an adult, but my father had passed away. Some of my actions were not good when I was a teenager towards my father, but later on in life, after I gave my life, and I was beating myself up because my father was gone, is one thing that the Lord spoke to me was that we are not responsible for what they do, we're responsible for what we do. And because they are our parents, because they are given to God, to us, they were given to us also, that we are to respect them as such.
So we can then counsel not only young people growing up, but even adults that we may know whose parents are still here, that no matter what their parents do, their reaction should always be one of honor and respect. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Yes.
Even if their parent is just gone in the wind.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We're just saying either way.
No matter the condition in life.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Even if they're abusive, I'm just,
Hey, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
It-
That's
well,
in
it
there.
happens.
that's what I'm just
Yeah.
making sure.
Yeah.
It's in there. We skipped over it on page 146. It talks about the abusive
Yeah.
father and the children that are raised by abusive father. It said girls who are raised with violent, drunken fathers almost invariably marry violent, drunken men, or dominant, brutal fathers breed dominant, brutal sons and daughters, whose husbands become dominant and brutal, unless the cross intervenes.
Yeah.
I had dealt with a young lady, I was counseling her where that was concerned, and you know what, I said to her, she said, never believe my dad calls me, we're gonna go at it. I said, no. I said, you have to use wisdom. I said, even when you interacting with your parents, if there's something there that you can't break through, there's a point, the Holy Spirit will let you know. I said, Holy Spirit will let you know, oh, this conversation getting ready to go south. Dad, I love you so much. I'll call you later on in the week. You got to learn how to you be respectful in that sense. But I always told her, because she absolutely hates her father. She detests him because he was so hateful to her mother. And when I say she detests him, she detests him. And there's nothing in the world she still wouldn't do for him. She takes good care of him. But at the same time, she knows she should love him, but I told her, I used to tell her all the time, I said, you gotta stop. When he calls you, when that conversation get ready to go south, you know when it's, even when you go home to visit, if you don't stay at your parents' house, don't stay. Do what you have to do to keep yourself upright before God.
Right.
But now her mom died, and all the gloves came off. Because see, there was no, you get that thing where you feel like I'm justified in what I do. He doesn't deserve my love. You know what I'm saying? Even though honor thy mother and thy father, that your days may be long. That's unconditional. He didn't say if they do this, like Tony said.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can respectfully say things to people, even your parents. You can respectfully say things to people. And sometimes you just gotta know when to exit stage left. You gotta know when to exit stage left.
You know, there are certain things that no matter how we try, it's not possible for us to do.
That's right.
God has to do.
Do it, right.
And that kind of thing, it's easy to say, but unless you kind of like been in that, it takes. I mean, can't nobody do it but God.
Only God.
Because I detested and hated my father, and it takes deliverance.
Jesus.
It truly does. Can't nobody do it but God. It's a surrender thing that you it's a process you go through. And first of all, now some people are aware to hate, But sometimes, you know, that's that unforgiveness thing. You know, sometimes you can push stuff back so far and think you really don't hate,
And you can.
or you don't have unforgiveness. It's
Right.
because you don't think on the person,
Right.
or they not enter your mind, and you think that you don't have an issue until it confronts you. And there's a lot of things, not even just, you know, parents, but people that have actually hurt us. And we think that we've forgiven them, but we may really not have. Yeah, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
It
But
is.
if you've been in that position, you know, somebody's hurt you. And there's even things like that my mother may have done. I remember one time my mother set me off. I mean, set me off. And I was a teenager because it was something she said to me. And even to this day, I didn't forget it, but she apologized to me. But the fact it still was there. I forgive her, but it set me off. And it took, you know, a while for me to get past that. You know, even after she, you know, came back and, you know, apologized for doing it or saying it. But it took me a while to get past that.
That's the lady in the chapter later on.
The other day.
No, I said she just read me because that was me. My father passed away when I was like in I think about third, fourth grade. But I remember, you know, he would come around and he would, you know, pretty good. He used to drink. You know, my mom used to give me an ultimatum. You know, let the liquor go. You can't be with me. You know, you can't be in the house. You can't be around the kids. So I remember he used to come around and he always used to promise me stuff. But that it's like she said, you never forget things. I remember he came by. It was a couple days for my birthday. It was like, I'm gonna be there for your birthday. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give you that. And I didn't ask him anything, but he was talking about, I'm gonna bring you this. And he was like, what you want, son? And I was like, really nothing. Just be here. And he didn't show up.
Yeah.
And the next day, and like a day or two later, I mean, I had a good birthday, thank God for my mom. But then I was walking home from school. He shows up, and I'm walking home from school, and it was a long way. And I'm in well, I supposed to walk to meet my brother. So I'm walking home from school that day by myself, and you know, you're talking about like second, third grade, probably third grade at best. And I was at Margaret Herman, that's up to third grade. And he comes around with his truck, he's following me saying, you know, David, get in the truck. And I'm like, no, sir, I won't get in the truck. Still respect, I didn't disrespect it, but I didn't get in the truck. He stopped, got out the truck and all, and I took off running. He'd get back in the truck, and I start walking. But I never got in the truck. But I never looked back at him either, but like once or twice. And from that day forth, there wasn't a hatred, like people say, all that, bitter. I just cut him off. It's like he didn't exist. And even as an adult, I'm good at that, and I hate it, and I've been working on it as adults. I've done that with people even in the church. Like, we was at Cliffhair for 2 or 3 brothers cross me, and she'll tell you, and she'll be like, so and so. I'm like, who? Am I right? I mean, I would forget that you were born, and I did that to my father when I was, and it's just like I do that. It's like a protective mechanism. I don't want you to hurt me no more. So guess what? You don't even exist. So I honestly did that to my father, and it did affect me. And I know I was on the altar. I had some issues when I was in college now. Not bad stuff, not running, drinking, and I'm sitting there on that altar. And the Holy Spirit brought my father, and that mean the whole service, I'm in the altar crying, broke that. This day, people don't know why. And he asked me, I had to forgive my father for that, go forth. But if it wasn't for that moment, you know, because I'm living think that didn't affect me. Right? You know, I'm doing pretty good. And Lord, like, no, this is why you can't do what I want you to do because you got this issue. And there's somebody, and it was a person that wouldn't go to our church, but just somehow just spoke about it, briefly about you, forgiving Father and all this kind of stuff. And as soon as, it said the Holy Spirit brought everything to my remembrance. And he took me through a process. But, you know, all that, you know, none of them don't work. You know, you might as well just have bitterness against the person. It all equals the same thing. Death, you have a part of your life, like we talking about withered. A part of my life was dead. It was withered because I had that unforgiveness in my heart. But I didn't recognize the unforgiveness. Even though I didn't verbally, I mean, to this day, I've never, ever, mom or dad never came out and spoke again. I didn't know backbiting, all that, back talking stuff, never. But my thing is, you know, I'm just not going to address you. You know, you don't exist. You know.
So, okay, Miss.
I know exactly what you was talking about. My father was in my life. He would give hugs, he would give kisses, he would affirm whether he was sober or whether he wasn't sober. I mean, you know, it just depends on what it was. I learned to cut him off when he wasn't sober.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in turn, during the teenage years, it became bitterness. And it became something else. And today, me also, I will cut you off. And I try not to do that. I be trying not to do that. I'm saying, Lord, I'm listening to you. Please talk to me. But it's a thing that I try not to do. I try not, you know, but emotionally, try not to cut people off. It's still something that God is dealing with me.
And I want to say, as people, ultimately, we, like Elder Dave, I think you hit it right on the head. We tend to, I think the term is compartmentalize things, situations, people. I'm going to put you in this box, this situation in this box, et cetera, et cetera. So can we agree to get back to this point about if someone, because I'm big on someone posing the problems and the solution. In the case of abuse and things of that nature, we all know what happens. That only God can intervene in a situation like that and get that person
God
to
is
a point
the only-
where
yes,
they can
yes.
actually honor this person
Only
who
God.
may have been abusive to. Not possible in and of within ourselves.
No.
We say that's a fair
You can't
statement.
do that. Amen.
Right.
So without the presence of God, the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
intervention of the cross, it's probably not going to happen.
It's not gonna
That's
happen,
right.
nope.
That's why, let me say, that's why sometimes when you encounter people throughout life, man, you can't just look at them and say they just like that. You don't know what that person grew up
Yeah.
and went through. You don't know what type of parents they had, what type of things they had been involved in life. So that's why it's so important just to love people and just to love people.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what people, I don't care what they have done or what they did, and God can use anybody.
He's a donkey.
God used people that, Paul, look what Paul did, when he was Saul and stuff. So this is a good lesson. That is so important that we just kind of just love people and just kind of don't look at someone and say, oh, they ain't no good. He's just walking down the street with his pants hanging down. You don't know what this person went through. You don't know what type of parents he had or the type of environment he grew up in.
I'd like to add to that because I was thinking on the same thing line he was. However, I was thinking more like people in the church. We wonder why people don't get to a certain level of maturity. But when you have things that you're not even aware of that are in you,
Right.
that hinder you, you cannot even grow. You can't even begin to receive from God or really hear God. And so we wonder why, and a lot of times that is it. Because even with me, like even Pastor Dave did on that. I remember even, I think since you got my paper, but before that deliverance came, even receiving things, it was like, I described it as looking at one of those old TVs and when the static came on, you could see some of the picture, but you couldn't really get all the picture because of the static. That's how it is. Because you have that thing that's there that's hindering you from going forward. And a lot of times, even though you try to fix the reception, you don't even know what it is. It's something you can't fix. It's something you literally have to turn over to God and ask Him to do it. Give it to Him. It has to be surrendered.
And I'll say this and then we'll move on. I know you had something. Oftentimes we have an emphasis on learning, acquiring knowledge and learning how to do things in the Word, etc. But not quite enough emphasis on unlearning behaviors that we picked up over the years. Just like in the same situation with cutting people off. Not enough emphasis on connecting with people who are actually good for you. I see a lot of that now. I'm gonna cut you off. Days you do this, cut you off. Okay, and I understand. Actually, this is just my opinion. There is a place for that with certain people. Certain people,
They
not
become
everybody.
toxic.
But, old friends maybe. If you know they're going down one road, you're going down another. In my opinion, I probably will cut you. Like I have family. I got a family. So if you're out there doing X, Y, and Z, why am I riding in the car with you?
You gotta go rob the bank.
You going down for that? Nah, so I can't ride with you. So more of an emphasis on unlearning and connecting with people, situations, things that are actually good.
Can I say something about, this is the word of God tells us as parents, He said, provoke not. In other words, what He was sharing with us, we don't supposed to provoke our children. Our children are to honor. I'm a child too, so I have Well, both my parents are deceased, but I'm not one, not my biological, but my stepfather, who raised me. So, as we was coming up as children, and I listened to Sister Laura's testimony, Sister Sylvia, Sister Brother Dave, I believe that there was something that provoked you as a child. You know what I'm saying? Your dad didn't show up. Your mom said something. Your dad, you cut your father off. You didn't listen to him when he was in that spirit of alcohol or whatever you know. So that was a thing that he was provoking you and didn't know it. Can you see that? You was provoked in that area and didn't know it. So when the child is provoked, they'll put up a wall.
Yeah.
Now the parent don't know that the word of God said that I'm not supposed to provoke you. Okay? So that's something that's touching. By the way, you said something to me. Your dad didn't show up for your birthday. Your dad, you don't like to associate with your dad when he was alky. That was provoking to you. And you put up that wall that when someone is talking to you later on in life or in the church or you want to disconnect with somebody because that's a touchy thing. That thing was provoking you as a child. Can you understand that part?
Amen.
So those are the areas that we need deliverance from. Who said about the TV? About the screen? The static. Now, what God was showing me even now in the spirit is that you used to see the picture as a parent to a child, but then the static came in because the static was the provoking part. Okay? So then the TV is still plugged into the wall for connection, for electricity. Okay? But still plugged into the wall to get electricity power. You're still plugged into your parents when they was live among us to get power. But the disconnect, when the static came in, that was to provoke it. So you didn't see things as you should have seen them as a child to a father, or to a father to a child, or even a mother, because we said parents, okay? So that's what I got out of it.
All right, for time, I'm just gonna read the bottom of 149, just a portion of it, so we can move on. It said, therefore, who has 2 Corinthians 5:17 through 18?
Oh.
Okay, go ahead and read that for us, Danny.
This means that anyone that belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone and new life has begun. And all of this is a gift from God who brought us back from himself through Christ. God has given us this task to reconcile the people to him.
Okay, so then it says, some of us denying this scripture by insisting on looking at childhood, but they miss the point we're making. We do not propose that we should confess childhood sins that are no longer producing bad fruit in our lives. But then it said these have been washed away by the blood of the Lamb. Whether this is the good part, we confess whatever childhood sins we still have and are practicing to this day. So if the picture is no longer showing clearly and it once was a picture, we need to clear that picture up. That's the sin we need to be looking at. That's the sin we need to be confessing to God that he helped us with. On page 150, it says, once the root has been discarded, the hearer is involved in the confession. But one might protest, I don't remember ever feeling badly toward my parents. Why then should I forgive? And then Miss Pat, for that young lady, said, because of the fruit of your life tells you that the bitterness is there, whether you feel it consciously or not. Yeah. Then it go on and say, for instance, a girl earned 5 A's and a B. Okay, so her father was basically, she earned 5 A's and a B, and the dad was like, well, basically the B could have been an A. He didn't look at the A's to say, you done a good job. Or he didn't even look at the A and the B and say, you done a good job. She still made the honor roll. Right. He didn't approve of it, basically. But she said, in the story, it said, well, she didn't really get mad at him. There was no disrespect going on. But it was in her heart. And then when she got grown one day, she lashes out on her husband. Why? She just snapped like that. Well, she snapped because she had done something good, and the husband didn't say, oh, good And she went back to that childhood memory of her father. So all them years she was holding on to that, and one day she finally exploded on the wrong person. But she exploded, and it said that, but consciously she felt no anger at her father, for she had never allowed herself to feel anger at him. So why should she forgive him? Because the fruit said that she was bitter towards him. Whether or not she felt it, how could she forgive him? Having seen by faith that the presence of a bad fruit indicates the presence of a bad root. And having seen by counsel or insight that the root lies in hidden resentment and judgment.
There you go.
She could repent by faith no matter what she felt or didn't feel. Can someone read Colossians 3:5-10? Somebody has it.
Oh, okay, I got that. Colossians 3:5-10 says, therefore consider the members of your earthly body as dead to immortality, impurity, passions, evil desires, and greed, which amounts to idolatry. For it is because of these things that the wrath of God will come upon the sons of disobedience. And in them you also once walked when you were living in them, but now you also put them all aside: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you laid aside the old self and its evil practices, and have put on the new self, who is being received to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him.
The original question we had was, how do we get rid of this evilness? How do we get rid of these vices? But it's already been answered through our relationship with Christ. It takes the intervention of the cross to help us get through this. It said, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Matthew 16:24.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're talking
Can I
about,
say something? Concerning the word provoke, and because I think sometimes, and as a child, I looked at it differently. Sometimes when our parents, my father told me one day, when you get off that bus, you come straight home. And I did. But when I got home, something was going on around the house, because he was the person that stayed inebriated sometimes. There was provoking there. He was telling me something to do, but I didn't want it for him to tell me that or to do, because I thought it was wrong. Even though he was intoxicated, it was right. Sometimes I think as parents, our children will see things like if we try to keep them from doing something, or don't want them to do that because of something else. In other words, provoking, at times a child will look at it as, you're not trying to protect me, you're trying to keep me from having fun. Can you see that? And so at that age, sometimes they don't understand that your father or your mother said this because it was trying to protect you, not to provoke you. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Does that make a spiritual connection there? And so we have to be discerning even in that area when we are talking to our children and making sure by the Spirit of God that it's not, they don't receive it as a provoking mechanism.
I'm sorry, I know you got tired. You mentioned like the reconciling with men. I'm sorry, reconcile with God, but we also got to reconcile with man. You got to go to your brother in that too, because in that same story, after I went through the episode, and I was in medical school at the time. I took off time during the summer, and I went and asked my mom. I said, "Well, God, this family, I want to talk to him." So I found his oldest sister that raised him, and we sat down. We talked on the porch, and before this time, everybody would say, "You just like your mom." That's all I hear, And we sat there and talked. She pulled out pictures, started talking about how they grew up, what a kind spirit he had, and what he would give his shirt off his back, then about and all this kind of stuff. And she looked at me, and because she talked about me, she knew about me. She said, "You're just like your father." And I understood a lot of my qualities. The good stuff even came from him, but he had that vice. But he had that vice because he didn't know Christ. So it was easy to say, man, he was a great, good-hearted person. I got some good qualities from him, but see, he had that one vice because he didn't know Christ. But I had to reconcile with man too, not just because some of us do that. Just because we pray and go to God, we think, well, I'm good. No, you got to go to the person too.
Come on, that's good.
And just quickly, see, one thing we don't really talk about unlearning. See, part of the being in the new kingdom and rebirth is the fact that our family relationship, our human relationship also reflects our relationship with God.
Yes.
So if there's failure here, there's failure with us and God. It's not that person, because we said we're in Christ. We're supposed to be reconciled or be able to get through it. So we were without excuse for not having a harmonious relationship one with the other, especially those that's in the body of Christ.
Yes.
So because going to church is insignificant if it doesn't reflect in the body.
So last thing I'll mention is when we talk about the Father giving life, and I think the Father giving a lot of things. I was reading Kings, and if ever you don't have to go there, but in Kings 15, 1 Kings 15:3, it talks about all through the whole book. 1 Kings 15:3, it says he committed, talking about, I want to say this is Abijam. I'm not going to butcher his name. But he says he committed the same sins as his father before him, and he was not faithful to the Lord his God as his ancestor David had been. And then further down, to give the adverse side of it, the 15:26, when it talks about Asa, it says of Asa in 26. I'm sorry, Nadab. But he did what was, this is evil. No, Asa talked about he was good. Verse 11. Okay, my apologies. In verse 11, it mentions that Asa did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight as his ancestor David had done. It always goes back in this book, if you notice, that it chronicles these kings, these men of power, back to what their fathers did. And I thought about David, and the thing with David, if you think about David and Bathsheba, between David and Solomon, David had that great sin of lusting after Bathsheba, putting her husband on the front line to die, eventually breaking Solomon, who became the next king of Israel. But the thing with David actually repented of that sin and turned his heart back to God. Solomon, you talk about problems with dealing with women, his relationship with women. But Solomon, that same sin of the father, dealing with women, Solomon let that same sin that his father committed actually lead him astray from God. And I looked and I kept looking and looking, but I see no evidence that Solomon did what David did and actually turned his heart back to God. If it's in there, somebody show me, because I don't see where it happened. Even though God appeared to him twice, he said, "You're on the wrong track. Stop building all these altars. I got all these wives and all these concubines, and I'm trying to build these altars up, keep them happy." So what the Father does is so important, because in certain circumstances, things can be passed down that are both good and that are not so good. And at the same time, those things are even magnified. Right. What Ms. Liz said, when we talk about cases of abuse, I want to say 9 times out of 10, if you're dealing with an abusive person, chances are they've been abused themselves.
That's right.
So those things are passed down. Not only can it be passed down, but they can even be magnified.
Magnified.
All right, can everyone please stand? You go back to where you began. Sister Sylvia, you go over here.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, okay, Sister Calvin. So they broken off into groups. If they lived in the house with both of their fathers, stepfather, or no father. So over here is both parents, but then within that group, the dad was not involved as a group. Back here is stepfather. If you lived in the house with your stepfather. Over here is no father. Like your father was not in the home with you, he wasn't involved. Over here. Both parents is on this side, like towards this side. But this group over here, they had both parents, but the father was not like involved. He wasn't touchy-feely, he wasn't affectionate, he wasn't.
Oh, no, I had a stepfather, he wasn't that either.
So then you go with his stepfather. Okay, so both parents over here. Okay, so Sister Catherine, when you think about you growing up and your father being involved in your life, did you live in a house with both parents, stepfather, or no father?
Because at times, they divorced and separated. I lived with my mother, but every weekend I was at my father's house, and after school I was at my father's house with my stepmother, so I don't know where I belong. Okay, I'll go over here. He was in your life.
He was in your life.
Yeah, make a decision.
Okay.
So you have me on this side.
He made his legal ass. Okay, so if you realize where you are, be it it's okay. How your childhood, this is just childhood, this is not now, and that's why we're gonna close out with this. Regardless to when I call your group, then you're gonna come to the front right here. Cross here, okay? I'm gonna make a circle. Regardless to if you live with both parents, regardless to if you were in the house with both parents, but your father was not involved. It doesn't matter if you had a stepfather. It doesn't matter if you didn't have a father at all. Come around this way.
Angelina?
Come on, make a circle.
You and Sister Victoria had a part of the way that
He's been in training, because
he don't on your own training. I used to you.
Regardless to how you grew up with your childhood, be it your father was there or your father wasn't there or he was in and out, we all have one common denominator. Okay? And the author said our life with or without our fathers, but I want to change that to our one common denominator. Our one common denominator is John 15:15. So for those of you who did not have a father, for those of you who had a stepfather but he wasn't involved, or you had both parents and he wasn't involved, you are not fatherless.
Amen.
Okay? Regardless to if your dad has passed away, say he was both and he's no longer here, you still are not fatherless. We still are not fatherless. Because the word is saying in John 15:15, I am the true grapevine, and my father with a capital F. There's a difference between this lowercase father that we're talking about and then the one with a capital F. They say, I am the true grapevine, and my father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do not bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. So when we abide in Christ, and he abide in us, once we abide in Christ, we then in turn are now a part of the family, which is God's family. He then is our Father. So anytime someone is in Christ, they have a father, and we are no longer fatherless.
Amen. Amen.
Let's pray. Let's pray.
Put your hands together. Oh, she ready.
God, we thank you for this day. We thank you that you are a true Father of God, and that we are no longer fatherless, oh God. We are not fatherless because we abide in you and you abide in us, oh God. And Father God, we just thank you for this time. We ask that your word be implanted and engrafted in our hearts, oh God, and that when we leave this place, oh God, that we'll be able to teach others, oh God, that they are no longer fatherless, oh God, because in you, you are our true Father, oh God. We thank you. We ask that you be glorified. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.